The emergency signal had been blinking for 3 days before anyone found it. Deep in the outer rim, far from the busy trade routes, a broken ship floated in the darkness of space. It turned slowly, like a dead leaf falling through water. Parts of it were missing. Parts of it were burned. It was clear that something terrible had happened here. Lieutenant Park Suho stood at the window of the rescue ship and looked at the wreckage. He was 32 years old, tall, with short black hair and tired eyes. He had been doing rescue work for 8 years. He had seen many bad things in that time. Dead ships, dead people, children crying for parents who would never answer. But something about this wreckage made his stomach feel cold. "What do we know?" he asked. His team leader, a woman named Beek Yuna, pulled up the information on her screen. It was a Vulcan colony ship. Name was the Silver Dawn. They were refugees, about 200 of them. They were running from their home planet. "It is dying. You know. The star is getting too hot." Suho nodded. He knew about the Vulcans. They were a species that looked like cats in some ways. They had silver or gray fur, large eyes the color of honey or gold, pointed ears, and long tails. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but they were shorter and lighter. They were a quiet people, peaceful, known for their art and music. And now their world was ending, and they were scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. "Any survivors?" Suho asked. Yuna shook her head slowly. "We are not sure yet. The ship's life support failed. It has been 3 days. If anyone is alive in there." She did not finish the sentence. Suho put on his helmet. "Then we should hurry." The inside of the Silver Dawn was dark and cold. Suho moved through the hallways with his flashlight, stepping over broken metal and shattered glass. He could see frost on the walls. The air was thin and tasted like metal. His boots made no sound because there was almost no atmosphere left. He found the first bodies in the main hallway. Vulcans, frozen where they had fallen. Some of them were holding each other. Some of them were reaching toward doors they never opened. Suho counted them as he passed. 10, 20, 30. His heart grew heavier with each one. He checked every room. Storage, empty. Medical bay, empty. Engineering, empty. The crew quarters, empty, except for the dead. Then he came to the nursery. The door was stuck, so Suho had to force it open with his hands. When it finally moved, he stepped inside and stopped. The room was small and painted with soft colors. There were tiny beds along the walls, each one sized for a Vulcan child. Most of the beds were empty, but in the corner, beneath a pile of blankets and broken ceiling panels, something moved. Suho walked closer, slowly, carefully. He knelt down and lifted the blankets. A Vulcan female lay there, her body curled into a protective ball. She was dead. Her fur was gray with frost, and her eyes were closed. But beneath her body, pressed against her cold chest, was a small cub. The cub was alive. Her eyes opened when the light hit them. They were huge, golden, and full of terror. She was tiny, maybe the size of a human toddler, with soft silver fur and ears that pressed flat against her head in fear. When she saw Suho, she made a sound that was half hiss, half cry. "Easy," Suho said softly. He did not move. "Easy, little one. I am not going to hurt you." The cub did not believe him. She bared her small teeth and tried to scratch him with her claws. But she was weak. So weak. She had been here for 3 days with no food, no water, and the body of her mother growing cold around her. She had survived on nothing but instinct and luck. Suho sat down on the floor, making himself smaller, less threatening. He kept his voice low and gentle. He did not try to touch her. He just talked. "My name is Suho," he said. "I am from a rescue ship. I came to help. I know you are scared. I know you do not know me. But I promise I am not going to leave you here. I am going to take you somewhere warm and safe." The cub watched him with those huge golden eyes. Her ears were still flat. Her body was still tense. But she had stopped hissing. Suho talked for a long time. He talked about nothing important. He talked about his ship, his home, his favorite food. He talked about the stars and the planets and the funny way humans sneezed. He talked until his throat was dry and his knees hurt from sitting on the cold floor. Finally, the cub's body relaxed just a little. Her ears lifted slightly. She made a small, tired sound. Suho reached out his hand, very slowly. The cub flinched but did not scratch. He touched her head, gently, just a light brush of his fingers against her fur. "There you go," he whispered. "That is not so bad, is it?" The cub closed her eyes. She was exhausted. She had no strength left to fight. Suho picked her up carefully and held her against his chest. She was so light, so small. He could feel her heart beating fast against his palm. He wrapped his jacket around her to keep her warm and carried her out of the nursery, past the frozen bodies, through the broken hallways, and back to the rescue ship. On the ship, the medical officer, a woman named Yoon Hana, examined the cub. "She is dehydrated and malnourished," Hana said. "But she will live. She is strong, this one. Do we know her name?" Suho asked. Hana checked the ship's records. "Rhea. Her name is Rhea. She is 4 cycles old. Both parents were on the ship. Both are dead." Suho looked at the small cub lying on the medical bed. She was asleep now, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths. Her tail was wrapped around her own body, like she was trying to hold herself together. "Any relatives?" he asked. Hannah shook her head. "None that we can find. The Vulcan people are scattered. There are not many of them left. We sent messages to the Vulcan colonies, asking if anyone can take her, but..." She shrugged. "It might take months to find someone. If we find anyone at all." Suho sat down beside the bed and watched Rhea sleep. He did not know why, but he could not make himself walk away. There was something about this small, broken creature that pulled at his heart. "I will stay with her," he said quietly, "until she wakes up." He did not know it then, but that was the moment everything changed. That was the moment he stopped being just a rescue officer and started becoming something else. Something like a father. 6 months had passed since Suho found Rhea in the wreckage of the Silver Dawn. 6 months of paperwork, interviews, medical tests, and waiting. The Galactic Union did not make it easy to adopt a child from another species. There were laws. There were questions. There were people who thought he was crazy. But Suho did not give up. He filled out every form. He answered every question. He took classes on Vulcan biology, Vulcan culture, Vulcan psychology. He learned that Vulcan cubs needed warmth because their home world had been hot. He learned that they communicated through scent as much as words. He learned that they needed to climb and hunt and play, or they became sad and sick. When the adoption was finally approved, Suho took a long leave from his job and brought Rhea to his small apartment on station, Horizon 7. He had spent weeks preparing the space for her. He installed climbing structures on the walls. He raised the temperature so she would not be cold. He programmed the food machine to make Vulcan meals. He removed all the artificial smells from his soaps and cleaners because he read that strong scents could upset Vulcan children. But none of that mattered at first, because Rhea was afraid of everything. She would not eat the food he gave her. She would not drink the water. She hid under the bed for hours, her eyes glowing in the darkness, watching him with suspicion. When he tried to come close, she hissed and scratched. She drew blood more than once. Suho did not get angry. He did not force her. He just sat on the floor near the bed and talked to her in a soft voice. He read books out loud. He told her stories about his childhood in Korea, about the mountains and the rivers and the way the cherry blossoms fell in spring. He did not know if she understood, but he hoped his voice would become familiar, safe. That night, he heard her crying. Small, broken sounds that came from under the bed. Sometimes she called out words in her own language, words he did not understand. He knew she was having nightmares. He knew she was dreaming about the ship, about the cold, about her mother's body going still around her. He wanted to hold her and tell her everything would be okay, but she was not ready. So he just sat outside her door and waited. After 2 weeks, Rhea started to eat. She would only eat when he was not looking, so Suho learned to put the food down and walk away. After 3 weeks, she started to drink water normally. After a month, she stopped hiding under the bed all the time. The first word she said to him was cold. Suho had been reading a book on the couch when he heard it. He looked up and saw Rhea standing in the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself, shivering. The temperature in the apartment was already warm for humans, but it was not warm enough for her. Cold, she said again, her voice small and rough from not being used. Suho got up slowly and walked to the temperature control. He raised it even higher. Then he took a blanket from the couch and held it out to her. Rhea looked at the blanket for a long time. Then she took it with her small clawed hands and wrapped it around herself. She did not say thank you. She did not smile. But she did not run away. That was progress. The weeks that followed were slow and difficult. Suho learned to move carefully around her. He learned to announce himself before entering a room so he would not startle her. He learned that she liked to sit in high places, so he let her climb on top of the cabinets and watch him from above. He learned that she collected things, small objects like buttons and coins and pieces of string, and he did not take them away even when they made a mess. Slowly, Rhea began to change. She started speaking more. First single words, then short sentences. Her voice was soft and a little rough, like she was not used to using it. She asked questions about everything. What was that food called? Why did the lights turn on by themselves? Why did humans have such flat faces and small ears? Suho answered every question patiently. He showed her how things worked. He let her press the buttons on the food machine and choose her own meals. He let her control the lights and the temperature. He wanted her to feel like this was her home, not a cage. One night, Suho was sitting on the couch, half asleep, when he felt a small weight settle beside him. He opened his eyes and saw Rhea climbing onto the cushion next to him. She was holding her blanket. Her ears were low, uncertain. "Can I?" She started, then stopped. She tried again. "Is it okay if I sit here?" Suho's heart felt tight in his chest. "Of course," he said. "You can always sit here." Rhea sat down, keeping a little distance between them. She pulled her blanket around herself and stared at the wall. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, Rhea moved closer. She leaned against his arm, just a little. Suho stayed very still, afraid that if he moved, she would run away again. But she did not run. Instead, she pressed her forehead against his chin. He had learned from his studies that this was a Vulcan gesture. It meant trust. It meant safety. It meant family. "You are warm," Rhea whispered. "Like Mother was." Suho could not speak. His throat was too tight. He just put his arm around her, gently, carefully, and held her while she fell asleep against his side. A few days later, his sister Park Ji-won came to visit. She was 3 years younger than him, loud and cheerful and always full of opinions. She had thought he was crazy when he told her about the adoption. But now, watching him with Rhea, her face changed. "You really love her," Jiwon said, surprised. Suho looked at Rhea, who was playing with a toy ship on the floor, making quiet sound effects with her mouth. Her tail swished back and forth happily. Her ears were up and relaxed. She looked like a different creature from the terrified cub he had found in the wreckage. "She is my daughter," Suho said simply. Jiwon stared at him for a moment. Then she smiled. "Okay," she said. "Then I guess I'm an aunt now." That night, after Jiwon left, Rhea climbed into Suho's lap without asking. She curled up against his chest and closed her eyes. "Appa," she said softly. Suho froze. Appa. It was the Korean word for father. He had used it once, weeks ago, when explaining human family words. He did not think she had been listening. "Appa," Rhea said again, testing the word. "Is that okay? Can I call you that?" Suho hugged her tight. "Yes," he said, his voice rough. "Yes, you can call me that." Rhea purred. It was the first time he had heard her purr. The sound was soft and warm, like a small motor running in her chest. Outside the window, the stars turned slowly in the darkness of space. Inside the apartment, a human man held his alien daughter and listened to her purr. It was not a normal family, but it was theirs, and that was enough. 2 years had passed, and Rhea was no longer the frightened cub that Suho had pulled from the wreckage. She was 6 cycles old now, bright and curious and full of energy. She went to the interspecies school on Station Horizon 7, where children from many different worlds learned together. She was good at languages and numbers. She loved to read stories about space explorers. She had friends, both human and alien, who came to play at the apartment. She called Suho Appa every day, and every day it made his heart feel warm. But not everyone was happy about their family dot. It started small. A look from a stranger in the market. A whisper that stopped when Suho walked by. A neighbor who smiled at him but never looked at Rhea. Suho noticed these things, but he did not say anything. He hoped Rhea did not notice, but children always notice. One day, a human woman in the grocery store looked at Rhea and then looked at Suho with narrow eyes. "Is that yours?" she asked, her voice cold. Suho felt his jaw tighten. "Yes, she is my daughter." The woman made a sound in her throat, something between a laugh and a cough. "Funny-looking daughter," she said, and walked away. Rhea's ears went flat against her head. She did not say anything, but she held Suho's hand tighter. Another time, a Vulcan trader passed through the station. He was old, with gray fur that had turned almost white, and he walked with a cane. When he saw Rhea speaking Korean with Suho, he stopped and stared. "Little one," he said to Rhea in the Vulcan language, "do you not speak your mother tongue?" Rhea blinked. "I speak a little," she said carefully, "but I am better at Korean and common." The old Vulcan's face became sad. "A Vulcan child who cannot speak Vulcan," he said, shaking his head. "What has this galaxy come to?" He looked at Suho with something like blame in his eyes, then walked away. Rhea was quiet for the rest of the day. The worst came when a Vulcan diplomat named Elder Torvak visited the station. He was an important figure among the scattered Vulcan people, one of the leaders trying to rebuild their civilization on new colony worlds. He heard about Rhea and asked to meet with Suho. They met in a quiet cafe. Torvak was tall for a Vulcan, with silver fur and eyes that were more gray than gold. He was polite but cool. He asked Suho many questions about how he was raising Rhea. What food did she eat? What language did she speak? Did she know Vulcan history? Did she know Vulcan songs and stories? Suho answered honestly. He had tried to teach Rhea about her heritage. He had found books and videos about Vulcan culture. But the truth was, there was not much material available. The Vulcans were a dying people, and much of their knowledge had been lost. Torvak listened without expression. When Suho finished, the elder spoke carefully. "Lieutenant Park," he said, "I have no doubt that you love this child. I can see that you have tried to do well by her. But I must speak plainly. Rhea is Vulcan. She will always be Vulcan. And she is being raised by someone who cannot fully understand what that means." Suho felt his hands tighten under the table. "I understand that she is different from me. I have always known that. But love does not require sameness. Love is not enough," Torvak said gently. "She needs to know her people, her culture, her history. On our new colony world, we have Vulcan families who would be happy to take her. She could grow up surrounded by her own kind. She could learn who she really is." "She knows who she is," Suho said, his voice harder now. "She is my daughter." Torvak sighed. "I am not trying to take her from you by force. That is not our way. But I ask you to think about what is best for her. Is it best for her to grow up as the only Vulcan in a human world? To always be different? To always be other?" Suho stood up. "Thank you for your concern, Elder, but Rhea's home is with me." Torvak nodded slowly. "I hope you are right, Lieutenant. For her Saki." After that meeting, the whispers seemed to grow louder. Or maybe Suho just noticed them more. Either way, he could see them starting to affect Rhea. She came home from school one day with her ears flat and her tail dragging on the ground. Suho asked her what was wrong, but she said nothing and went straight to her room. Later, he found her sitting by the window, looking out at the stars. Her eyes were wet. "Appa," she said quietly, "am I really yours?" Suho sat down beside her. "What do you mean?" "Of course you are mine, but I am not human." She looked at her hands, at the small claws at the end of her fingers. "I do not look like you. I do not smell like you. Everyone can see that I am different." "Different is not bad," Suho said. "Some people think it is." Rhea's voice was small. "A boy at school said I was not really your daughter. He said you just felt sorry for me. He said one day you would get tired of me and send me away." Suho felt anger rise in his chest, hot and sharp. He wanted to find that boy and have words with his parents. But that would not help Rhea right now. So he pushed the anger down and focused on his daughter. "Rhea, look at me." She looked up, her golden eyes full of doubt and fear. "That boy does not know anything about our family. People say cruel things because they do not understand. But I need you to know the truth." He took her small hands in his. "You are my daughter. Not because I felt sorry for you. Not because I had no one else. Because I love you. Because when I found you, something in my heart told me you were mine. And that has not changed. It will never change." Rhea's lip trembled. "You promise?" "I promise." She leaned against him, and he put his arm around her. They sat together by the window, watching the stars turn slowly outside. But Suho could feel that she was not fully convinced. There was still doubt living inside her, a small dark seed planted by whispers and looks and careless words. He did not know how to dig it out. He could only keep loving her and hope that would be enough. He did not know that the real test was still coming. He did not know that soon. Rhea would ask him a question that would break his heart. But that night, he just held her close and told her she was loved. And for now, that was all he could do. Another year passed, and life changed again for the Park family. Her name was Sha Mai-Ray. She was an engineer who worked on the station, fixing the big machines that kept everyone alive. She had kind eyes and a quiet laugh and hair that she kept in a long braid down her back. Suho met her when his apartment's heating system broke, and she came to repair it. Rhea was suspicious at first. She watched Mai-Ray with narrow eyes, her tail twitching with uncertainty. She had never seen her Appa spend time with a woman like this before. What did it mean? Would things change? But Myra was patient. She did not try to force Rhea to like her. She just talked to her normally, asked her about school, about her favorite books, about the games she liked to play. She brought small gifts sometimes. Nothing expensive. A pretty stone she found on another station. A book about space adventures. A soft blanket in Rhea's favorite color. Slowly, carefully, Rhea began to warm to her. She did not call her mother. She was not ready for that. But she started to smile when Myra came to visit. She started to show her drawings and tell her stories. She started to save a seat for her on the couch. Suho watched his daughter open her heart, little by little, and he felt hope. Maybe they could be a real family. Maybe everything would be okay. Then Myra told him she was pregnant. They were alone when she said it. Rhea was at school. Myra sat across from him at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea, her face nervous and happy at the same time. "I just found out this morning," she said. "Are you? Is this okay?" Suho was quiet for a moment, processing. A baby, a human baby, his biological child. He had never thought about having children before he found Rhea. Now the idea felt strange and complicated. But when he looked at Marie's face, at the hope and fear mixed in her eyes, he knew his answer. "Yes," he said, and he smiled. "This is wonderful." They hugged and laughed and talked about the future. They made plans. They imagined names. For a few hours, everything felt perfect. Then Suho thought about Rhea, and his happiness turned cold. How would she feel about this? She had already struggled with feeling like she did not belong. She had already wondered if he really loved her or just felt sorry for her. What would happen when there was a human baby? A child that shared his blood, his face, his genes? He did not know how to tell her. In the end, he and Myra told her together. They sat her down in the living room and explained that Myra was going to have a baby. That soon, Rhea would have a little brother or sister. Rhea listened without moving. Her face was still. Her ears did not twitch. When they finished talking, she just nodded. "Okay," she said. "Can I go to my room now?" Suho felt his stomach twist. "Rhea, do you want to talk about it? You can ask us anything." "No, I am fine." She stood up and walked to her room. The door closed behind her with a soft click. She was not fine. Over the next few months, Suho watched his daughter change. She became quiet. She stopped laughing. She stopped calling him Appa and just called him by his name. She spent hours alone in her room, and when he tried to talk to her, she gave short answers and looked away. Myra noticed too. "Something is wrong," she said to Suho one night. "She is pulling away." "I know," Suho said. "I do not know how to reach her." The baby grew inside Myra. The apartment filled with new things. A small bed. Tiny clothes. Soft toys. Rhea looked at these things, but said nothing. Her eyes were empty. Her tail hung low. Then one night, Suho could not sleep. He got up to get water and saw that the door to the observation deck was open. He walked out and found Rhea sitting on the floor, her knees pulled up to her chest, her tail wrapped around her legs. She was staring out at the stars. Her fur was wet around her eyes. She had been crying. Suho sat down beside her slowly. He did not speak right away. He just sat there, close enough that she could feel his warmth, far enough that she did not feel trapped. "Rhea," he said gently, "talk to me, please." For a long moment, she said nothing. The stars turned outside the window. The station hummed quietly around them. Then, in a voice so small he could barely hear it, she spoke. "If you have a real cub, will you still want me?" The words hit Suho like a punch to the chest. He felt his heart crack open. "Rhea, it is okay." Her voice was thick with tears she was trying to hold back. "I understand. I have thought about it a lot. The human baby will be really yours. Same blood, same face, same everything. I was just someone you felt sorry for. An orphan you picked up because no one else wanted her. That is not true, Suho said, but Rhea kept talking. Elder Torvak said the Velkan colony would take me. I could go there. You would not have to pretend anymore. You could have your real family and not have to worry about the alien girl who does not fit. Her voice broke. You do not have to keep me, Appa. I know I am not really yours. Suho felt tears running down his own face. He did not wipe them away. He turned to Rhea and took her face in his hands, gently, so she had to look at him. Rhea, listen to me. Listen carefully. She looked at him with those golden eyes, so full of pain and fear. You are my real cub. Rhea's breath stopped. Blood does not make a family, Suho continued, his voice shaking but strong. I did not become your father because I felt sorry for you. I did not keep you because no one else would. I became your father because I love you. Because from the moment I found you in that broken ship, holding on to your mother's body, something in my heart knew that you were mine. That you were supposed to be mine. Tears spilled down Rhea's furry cheeks. She tried to speak but could not. The baby that Mireille is carrying is your brother or sister. Not your replacement. Never your replacement. Do you understand? You are not temporary. You are not a placeholder. You are my daughter. My first child. My brave, beautiful girl. And nothing will ever change that. But I am not human, Rhea whispered. I am not like you. You do not have to be like me to be mine. Suho pulled her into his arms and held her tight. Family is not about what you look like or what blood runs in your veins. Family is about love. Family is about choosing each other every single day. And I choose you, Rhea. I will always choose you. Rhea broke down completely. She sobbed into his chest, deep, painful sounds that she had been holding inside for months. Suho held her and rocked her and whispered to her in Korean, the same way he had when she was a tiny, terrified cub who did not know if she could trust him. They stayed like that for a long time, father and daughter, crying together under the stars. Finally, when Rhea's tears slowed, she spoke against his chest. I love you, Appa. Suho kissed the top of her head. I love you too, little one. Always and forever. Outside, the stars kept turning. Inside, something broken began to heal. Rhea was still afraid. She was still uncertain. But for the first time in months, she felt like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. Because she was Park Rhea, and her father had chosen her. Nothing else mattered. The baby came on a cold morning in the 4th month of the station's cycle. Suho was holding Murray's hand when it happened, and Rhea was waiting outside the medical room, her tail wrapped tight around her legs with nervousness. Thought it was a boy. Small and pink and loud. He screamed when he came into the world, his tiny fists waving in the air like he was angry at being born. The medical staff cleaned him and wrapped him in a soft blanket and placed him in Murray's arms. He is beautiful, Mireille whispered, tears running down her face. Suho looked at his son and felt his heart expand in a way he did not know was possible. This tiny creature was his, blood of his blood. And yet, when he looked at this baby, he did not feel what he expected to feel. He did not feel that this child was more his than Rhea was. He just felt more love. Like his heart had grown another room. What should we name him? Mireille asked. Suho had been thinking about this for months. Juno, he said. Park Juno. Mireille smiled. I like that. The door opened, and Rhea stepped inside. Her ears were low and uncertain. Her eyes were fixed on the bundle in Mireille's arms. She did not come closer. She just stood near the door, like she was ready to run away. Rhea, Suho said gently. Come meet your brother. Ria's ears twitched. My brother? Yes, your brother. Suho walked to her and knelt down so they were at the same height. You are his big sister now. That is a very important job. Do you want to hold him? Fear flashed across Ria's face. What if I hurt him? My claws. You will be careful. I know you will. Suho took her hand and led her to the bed where Myra was sitting. Sit down. Put your arms like this. Good. Now hold very still. Myra placed the baby gently in Ria's arms. The Vulcan girl froze, barely breathing. Juno was so small, so fragile. His skin was soft and warm against her fur. She was terrified that she would drop him or scratch him or do something wrong. Then Juno opened his eyes. They were dark, like his father's. He looked up at Ria with the unfocused gaze of a newborn, not really seeing her but looking in her direction anyway. He made a small sound, not a cry, more like a curious noise. Then he reached up with one tiny hand and grabbed a fistful of her silver fur. Ria made a sound of surprise. He's holding me. He likes you, Murray said softly. Something changed in Ria's face. The fear melted away. The uncertainty faded. She looked down at this tiny human creature holding onto her fur, and something deep in her chest began to rumble. She was purring. It was the deep, warm purr of a Vulcan who felt safe and happy. It filled the room like soft music. Juno seemed to like it. His grip on her fur relaxed and his eyes drifted closed. He fell asleep in his sister's arms, soothed by the sound of her purr. I think he really likes you, Suho said, his voice thick with emotion. Ria did not look up from the baby. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. He is so small, she whispered. I will protect him. I promise. I will be the best big sister in the whole galaxy. And she was. Years passed. Juno grew from a baby into a toddler, then into a boy. He had his father's eyes and his mother's smile. He was loud and curious and always getting into trouble. He followed Ria everywhere, calling her Nuna, the Korean word for older sister, which she had taught him as soon as he could talk. Ria grew too. She became tall for a Vulcan, almost as tall as a human teenager. Her silver fur became sleek and beautiful. Her golden eyes were bright with intelligence. She finished school at the top of her class. She was fluent in 4 languages: Korean, Common, Vulcan, and the technical language of machines. When she was old enough, she applied to the Galactic Union Academy. She wanted to become a liaison officer, someone who helped different species understand each other. She wrote in her application about growing up as a Vulcan in a human family, about the challenges and the joys, about what she had learned about love crossing the boundaries of blood and species. She was accepted. The night before she left for the academy, the family had dinner together. Suho, Myra, Juno, and Ria, sitting around the same table where they had shared 1,000 meals. Juno talked loudly about his school and his friends and the new game he was playing. Myra laughed at his stories. Suho watched his family with quiet happiness in his heart. After dinner, Ria found her father on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She sat down beside him, just like she had done so many times before. Are you nervous? Suho asked. A little, Ria admitted. It is a big step. A new place. New people. Everything will be different. You will do well. You have always been brave. Ria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Do you remember when you found me? On that ship? I remember everything, Suho said. I was so scared. I thought I was going to die alone in the dark. And then you came. She looked at him, her golden eyes soft. You did not have to save me. You did not have to adopt me. You did not have to love me. But you did all of those things anyway. I could not have done anything else, Suho said. You were mine from the moment I saw you. Ria smiled. I know that now. It took me a long time to believe it, but I know it now. She leaned against him, pressing her forehead to his chin. The old gesture of Velkan trust that she had first shown him so many years ago. Thank you, Appa, for everything. Suho put his arm around her and held her close. Thank you for letting me be your father. Many years later, Ria stood on a stage in front of thousands of beings from dozens of worlds. She was no longer a young girl. She was Liaison Officer Park Ria, one of the most respected diplomats in the Galactic Union. She had spent her career building bridges between species, helping people understand each other, teaching that differences did not have to divide. Now she was giving a speech at the Interspecies Relations Conference, the biggest gathering of its kind in the galaxy. Diplomats, scientists, journalists, and leaders watched her from the audience. She talked about her childhood, about the wreckage of the Silver Dawn, about the human man who found a broken, terrified cub and chose to love her, about the family she never expected to have. I used to wonder if I was really his, she said, her voice clear and strong. I used to be afraid that blood was thicker than love. I used to think that one day he would realize I was not really his daughter and send me away. She paused and looked out at the audience. Her eyes found her father, sitting in the front row. He was old now. His hair was gray. His face was lined with wrinkles. But his eyes were the same, kind, warm, full of love. Beside him sat Mireille, still beautiful, still smiling. And next to her was Juno, now a young man with his father's serious face and his mother's gentle heart, her family. But my father taught me something that I want to share with all of you today, Ria continued. He taught me that family is not about genetics. It is not about what species you are. It is not about having the same blood or the same face or the same homeworld. She took a breath. Family is about choice. It is about waking up every day and choosing to love someone, to protect them, to stand beside them, even when it is hard. My father chose me when he had no reason to. He chose me when others told him not to. He chose me when I doubted myself and pushed him away. Her voice wavered, but she steadied it. Humans have a remarkable gift for this kind of love. They adopt children from other worlds. They form bonds across species lines. They look at someone completely unlike themselves and say, "You are mine, and I am yours." That is not weakness. That is strength. That is the most powerful force in the universe. She smiled, her eyes bright with tears she did not try to hide. That is what makes humanity extraordinary. That is what makes them worth knowing. And that is why I am proud, so proud, to be the daughter of a human. In the audience, Suho wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Mireille squeezed his arm. Juno grinned and gave his sister a thumbs up. The crowd began to applaud. The sound rose and rose until it filled the entire hall. Beings of 100 different species stood and clapped for the Velkan woman on the stage, for her words, for her story, for the truth she had spoken. But Ria was not looking at the crowd. She was looking at her father, and Suho was looking back at her. His heart so full it felt like it might burst out. She was Park. Ria, daughter, sister, bridge between worlds. She had started her life alone in the wreckage of a broken ship, holding on to her dead mother and waiting to die. Now she stood before the galaxy, loved and whole and exactly where she belonged, because a human man had looked at a frightened alien cub and said the words that changed everything. "You are my real cub." And he had meant it. Always.